Welcome everyone to our, well, officially it's our second Swan Medicine. The first one was last fall, but this is the first one officially since the last couple of initiations in the spring. So Mother, Father, God, all that is, a wonderful swan animated world of the swan realm, the nature realm, the animal realm. We want to thank you for gathering us here together, for helping pick a topic, and for your beautiful energy, the transformative way you're working with us, the coherence building, the high frequencies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I bow my head just like swans do. Swans, when they trust you, they do these little head bobbing. So I'm bowing my head to Swan and thanking all of you for coming in to allow this facilitation. Yep, thank you. Kuan Yin is here. Of course she is. Again, Swan Medicine is a goddess guidance. It's a goddess energy. Why? Because swans have been companions, messengers, spirits, familiars with the goddess energy for thousands and thousands of years. So, of course, they're here to usher in the era of the Divine Mother, and they act as messengers, as bridges, as um, shapeshifters, as those that walk between worlds. So they're bridging us between this world and the spirit world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We ask that you hear our prayer today. We ask that you guide us in the appropriate way and where and how we need to work through the issue. And the issue is unworthiness and transforming the unworthiness trap. So we're going to join together using our voices, and you're welcome to do this on your end or just allow the energy to move in, around, and through you. And so our voices are joining, chanting the sound of Om. Om is the sound of the divine, and we're going to do it 3 times, taking 3 deep breaths in, and on the out breath, elongating the sound of Om. Ready? First breath in. Second breath in. And the third breath in. Swan Medicine, bowing. Let's take a moment to just feel into the energy of the swan, just for a moment. Again, they're bowing to us as we bow to them. You're welcome to put your hand on your heart as they're gathering in a realm. So when we meet in a focal point outside of time and space. Everything is dimensional, everything is energy. And what I'm doing here, I've done for many, many lifetimes. And Swan Medicine is gathering with us, the swan realm, the Mother, Father Swan, all the little signets, one for each one of you, one for every one of your ancestors. So that's a lot of swans. You have one swan coming in to sit with you, and they're going to come in like angels typically come into our sessions. So see if you can feel their entry. We're going to count them down, and one's going to come into your heart, come into your spine to really help hold the vibration of swans. In the count of 3, 2, 1. Just entering into your system. It may not feel like anything at all. I kind of felt a really subtle presence because swans are of the earth realm, but again, they walk between worlds. So they're also of the spirit realm. They're wonderful bridges for us. Angel Jophiel coming in as well. Angel Jophiel, angel of illumination, We've got the sister moon in addition with Swan Medicine because of the moon vibration, the moon position, and the planetary shifts. Beautiful. So we ask that they hear our intention, transforming the issue of unworthiness wherever it may sit, especially as it traps us. Taking a moment for some of you, because I know energy is new for some of you. So what I'm going to do is take a moment to ground you into the center of the earth. Mother Earth is the most beautiful energy to ground in. So we're going to extend your grounding cord all the way down to the center of the earth, while at the same time updating its frequencies. Because there's a lot of high frequencies pouring into the planet right now, and it changes daily. So we're going to update your grounding cord to a dimensional one to be high frequency. Just takes a moment. And I think for those of you who need it, you're going to notice instantly. There we go. How it settles your system more firmly in the present. Just showing up today is a way to feel that sense of grounding is worth the hour we're spending together. You may notice more stability in the days to come. You may notice that energy just flows differently, all because we updated your grounding cord. Beautiful. Now the first part of the Swan Medicine path, or the Swan Medicine prescription, or the Swan Medicine protocol, is to put your hand on your heart. And we're going to invite in the sense of worthiness. But it's probably going to come in stronger as love. Now, this is unconditional love. So, unconditional love is holding the sense of your self worth. And there's no right or wrong way to meet it. Whatever your system is going through is exactly what it should be. You could feel a natural resistance. You could feel a natural irritation. You could feel a natural rejection. Or you could just feel the love pour in. Every time you work with it, it's different because you're different. The planetary arrangement is different. The group is different. The way you're being met is different. Beautiful. Yep, so I can sense some resistance for some of you. Others, you're just basking in the glow of love. It's pointing at worthiness, but it's also pointing at self-love. It's also pointing at self-acceptance. And ultimately, it wants to reflect your own inner beauty. Now, I'm not familiar with other coherence building exercises or modalities, but from what I know about high frequency, when you insert high frequency into any human equation, it immediately, we call it, bumps into what isn't high frequency, because the two are like oil and vinegar, they don't mix. So if you've noticed you're meditating or you're doing crystal bowls, you're doing high frequency work, and you actually start feeling worse, that is the energy working with what isn't high frequency. And that's how we can use it, by pointing it at something directly. Swan Medicine also has structures. Structures are dimensional points on a map, like GPS. Because we're asking it to work in a dimensional system, which is so complex, these little swan structures follow the intention of transforming the unworthiness as a trap and pinpoint where it needs to go. Everything is intentional when we work with divine energy. We need an intention to give it direction. We need the source, which is the fuel, and we need a tool, which is Swan Medicine. So Swan Medicine structures, pinpointing the unworthiness. There we go. That settled things for a few of you. I like the idea of GPS structures because that's exactly what it does. It gives your system directions to follow where this intention needs to go. So if you were working on this yourself, and again, the training's coming in next year, and this might change because I'm still working with people, still figuring it out, still learning. It works with your intuition. So if you sense energy, you can sense when it stops and starts. But if you can't, you can time Swan Medicine. Say, we need to run this first phase for 10 to 15 minutes, the second phase 10 to 15 minutes, the third phase 10 to 15 minutes. And so it ends up to be 30 to 45 minutes. And I've also found it works in layers. Like this, I can feel a love frequency coherence building in the beginning, hitting some of your layers, some of the resistance, some of the parts of you, the self-critic, or the parts of you that maybe don't feel good enough, or the parts of you that tend to numb out or self-sabotage, bumping into this love coherence and being very confused. But the swan medicine, the swan in your system, let's call it a swan angel. Because to me, swan in its spirit form is very angelic, is very loving. Angels love to work with humans. Swan from the nature realm, bird realm, animal realm, obviously are both earth and sky and water. Swans are very elemental in those three areas. So there's nothing to do if you feel your mind wandering, and it's inviting you to be interactive here, to focus on the love coming in, to keep it focused on any unworthiness that may arise, and stay present with it, to pause if your mind wanders or if your attention wanders, to bring it back to the love, to the worthiness, self-acceptance, because it's the acceptance of what's arising that's really going to help dissolve it. The shadow sides, the blind spots, are the parts of you that don't want to notice, that skip over it, that bypass. You've heard that word before. Sometimes when you work too much with love and light, it bypasses the deeper energies, the deeper emotional baggage that we all carry. Because I work so deep, and because we're working with Swan on a dimensional level, it is going to go into the hidden sides. It is going to go into the shadows. It is going to go into the blind spots. And that can bump into some uncomfortable stuff. So it may arise as discomfort, or your attention may wander, or and it's okay if you fall asleep, because if you fall asleep trancing out in ancient times when women danced in caves, when they chanted, the trance was a way to connect with source. So I never worry if people fall asleep or trance out, because I know it's working for them in a different way. But Swan also works with your awareness. So if you're intuitive and you can sense where it's hitting, where it's bumping into, just keep noticing it. If you're really aware of your body and you can feel it, like for some of you, I feel it really heavy in your heart center, especially around the higher heart, and even moving up into your throat, like some words that you've never spoken, maybe words of self-praise, maybe words of boundaries, maybe words that you choked back. Just give yourself permission to allow it to bubble up, because the energy here is doing the work for you, but you are also a conduit, an interactive part of this process. Because if you can get your awareness into it too, it teaches you your own power. So Swan Medicine ultimately reunites you with you. And it may be a process, it may take time. Goodness knows Swan's been very patient with me. It's been 2 years since I started sitting with the lake and noticing the swans, and it took them all summer before they did an initiation with me in the very end of the summer. I want to say beginning of September. Just had to keep showing up. And so Swan Medicine asks you, just keep showing up. When you keep showing up, when you keep asking for the love shows up for you. I need to say that again. When you keep showing up, when you keep opening to the love shows up for you. So it's really only 50% of the work. We can do that, right? They're not asking you to do the heavy lifting. They're saying just show up. Set the intention. Stay aware and present if you can. And if you can't, we'll still do it for you. Beautiful. And again, these phases are fluid. If you use Swan Medicine as a meditation technique or as a coherence building technique, you can spend a big chunk of time just on the first phase. Why? Because it's training your system to meet love openly. It's telling you you have some resistance to even meeting divine love. Goodness knows that was my baggage I was carrying. just a couple more minutes. Swan, love, worthiness, self-acceptance. Can you picture? For me, it started again with awe and wonder, because I think awe and wonder is even more high frequency than love, because it brings you to that childlike innocence, right? And that to me was the open door for swans to enter and notice and say, you see that in us, why don't you see that in yourself? And it was a legitimate question. And that's when they started working with me, and it was very powerful. So here we are, all these months later, asking you to find the love, asking you to envision a place of awe and wonder so that love blooms and blossoms. And if it's not, again, there is no right or wrong to meet this. If there is resistance, if there is rejection, the seeds are being planted. And there are some of your insides, and this is the sticky part of unworthiness. When unworthiness is pointed at the divine, and for a lot of us women, it is, because think of what we've faced for thousands of years. Oh, tears are coming to my eyes because there's so much truth here. Our deity, our goddess, our sovereignty, our autonomy, our fertility, our wombs were hijacked, and worse, so much worse. And some of it in the name of divine, because they took religion, and this is probably what we were all raised on, and not some of the pagan traditions. And they took religion and they made women's bodies a sin, the original sin, the tree, the tree in paradise, the tree of wisdom of life. Do you know what the original meaning of womb is in ancient language? It's wisdom. The womb is the tree of life. It is the tree of wisdom, because life comes out of the womb. There is no humanity. There is no creation of life without a womb. And so look what a sky god, a male religion, male leadership has done to our wombs. And so, of course, when we bring in divine love, there is a bit of skepticism, if not fear, there. I get it. And it is something that just lessens with time the more you work with it, because with a rejection of divine love, you have to go slow. You can't use divinity to transform a fear of divinity. And again, that fear isn't, there's no blame, there's no shame. It is a byproduct of ancient karma, of trauma that our grandmothers and grandfathers felt and used and perpetrated, because remember, we've had many lives. So Swan Medicine is part earth, part grounding, part nature. There we go. That worked for some of you, because nature is actually the best healer. I know some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Sitting with a tree, petting your cats or dogs. You know, I have a cat, used to have a dog, And when I'm feeling down, you know what that cat does? He comes and he just purrs. And that vibration is so soothing, is so calming. Because we're synced up together, right? When you realize all life is animated, you can go out and the wind will talk to you. I've had dances with wind, especially wind in the trees. Maybe that's why I was so open to Swan. And it was a surprise. Trust me when I tell you, I was not expecting anything other than showing appreciation for this beautiful bird that kept getting closer, kept getting closer, kept getting closer. And it tweaked something in me. I have yet to ask if I'm part of the Swan coven. Obviously, some part of me is. It's not like I don't want to know. It doesn't matter to me. Stories don't matter to me. It is the emergence of the opportunity that I focus on and sharing it with others. As we sit in this liminal space, what does that mean? Betwixt and between. We are sitting in a place where the old is collapsing and dying and breaking apart, and the new has yet to be born. We could be considered privileged, but it is also a very hard place to be because the old keeps pulling us back into the swamp, into the fear, into the outrage, and the new isn't created yet. And here's the thing, we're the ones creating the new. And it's going to be different from the old. What is it? I don't know. It's still an unknown. It can't be the exact same as our ancestors. Why? Because we have a completely different mixture of cosmology with what we're coming out of and where we're going to, and the climate and the populations and the different way it all interacts. And so Swan Medicine is that bridge and says, let me help you. It's a bridge from the liminal space into something greater, bit by bit. The beauty of Swan is that it just asks you to show up. But also the part of Swan that a lot of people may wince at is that it takes time. Our society is take a pill, instantaneous, immediate. Swan Medicine says, I'm in it for the long haul, and you should too. Because that's where the real magic happens. There we go, something just shifted. So some of you I know are really feeling the swan love, the unconditional love. You're just basking in the glow. And some of you still are struggling, and that's okay, because again, we have a mixture of people here who are all holding different aspects of unworthiness. So again, there is no right or wrong. So we're just going to move on to the second phase because I want to demonstrate the distinctive shift. So when we sit in the first phase, Swan Medicine builds and builds and builds until you really are soaking in its love, in the worthiness, in the part of you that knows your own inner beauty. And then we slowly introduce the unworthiness as a trap. There it is. Now it's coming in. So you can distinctly, before it was bumping into it, now that door is wide open. So just notice what's happening to your body right now. For some of you, I can feel the grief because the wounds of unworthiness are what created that emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. In this case, it has the frequency of unworthiness, but unworthiness is an umbrella. It didn't start out as unworthiness. It started out as a wound. So allow whatever is bubbling up in you just to arise. Again, if you're awake and aware, here's where you can start exploring. Hey, unworthiness, what do you want to tell me? And for some of you, I'm feeling it. It is grief. It is that unhealed grief that I lost something. It could be your autonomy. It could be your sovereignty. It could be your sense of holiness. Because women, as womb fertility carriers, as life givers, we're the primary focus. We live in a culture that sees us as inferior, that oppresses us, that has taken away our authority, our leadership, and crushed it. And so those wounds don't make us feel very good. And so the grief is the loss of that sense of self. So let's just stay there. If you are feeling something different, that's okay. But we are going to focus as a group on the grief, because there isn't a single one of you that doesn't have a grief wound associated with unworthiness. And here's where it gets a little dicey, because this transformation phase replaces the coherence of love and asks it to meet the unworthiness wherever it needs to go. And in this case, it's pinpointed a form of grief, of loss of something significant. Well, the loss of self-worth, right? Of self-esteem, of self-love. Your divine identity, your beauty, your innocence, that is your birthright. And so let this grief bubble up. And I know for some of you it is pretty strong, but know, here you are held in the wings of love. Feel them. In fact, one of the earliest statues, 12,000, 14,000 years ago, was a figurine that had wings surrounding a woman. You could clearly see it was a tiny little figurine. It was obviously a deity that was revered and worshipped for someone to carve it in the way that they did. So just imagine if the grief is getting stronger or too much. Imagine being held, being carried on the wings of love. And ask that the grief be met. To pause in any attachment you have on story. Here, it's not necessarily about the story. If you need the story to understand and let go, wonderful, let it come up. If the story perpetuates, ruminates, circulates, because a part of unworthiness is the self-criticism, right? And so we don't want to fall into the trap of the self-criticism that continues to tell you the story, tell you the story, tell you the story. Here's where we need to let it go. Here's where Swan teaches us to fly into the pain deeper, into the grief, into the wound that created the unworthiness and grieved it. It grieved it. The grieving process, the keening, is so very necessary for cleansing. Someone's called crying angel tears, because the and also the physiology, the biology of Oh, I can't think of the chemicals that come out of tears. It's proven to affect your biochemistry. So let Swan cry with you, because this grieving process was interrupted. Because maybe it wasn't appropriate at the time. Remember, we are working dimensionally. It's probably not a story in your current life. It might be attached to a story in your current life, but it's probably something lifetimes old. Maybe related to ancestor stories. There you go. Grieving the loss. Of your womanhood. That's the umbrella here. And it includes the womb, it includes the breasts. We as women face this ideal of perfectionism that none of us can meet because we all grow old, we all age, things sag, skin wrinkles. And yet this perfectionism says you need to be this in order to be accepted, to be loved, to be beautiful. We interrupt that framing when we reject that perfectionism, but we still need to grieve the loss that took it away from us, to be real, to be authentic, to see ourselves as beautiful in our aging, in our wisdom. Elders were revered in the matrifocal, matrilineal cultures. They were the wisdom keepers. They were the medicine women. They kept the ideas alive. They knew which herbs to get. They knew which potions to use. We've lost that community. And so we're grieving the loss of womanhood, of the holy womanhood, WHOLEY. Because the whole womanhood wasn't fragmented like it is today, wasn't fractured, wasn't broken. So how can you grieve something that huge? You can't. So Swan comes in, says, let me do it for you. Swan in the form of goddesses. I can't think, is it Lakshmi? I can't think of the goddess, and I read it too, and my mind is just not going into facts right now. There was a couple of goddesses. Oh, I know Apollo was on a winged swan chariot that flew close to the sun, but I know there's goddesses that have swans as companions. Grieving the loss of womanhood, of our inner beauty. It's been hijacked, idealized, objectified. There we go. So I'm going to put in another set of structures. Remember, structures are just intentional map holders. And these are swan light structures. The swan light structures are little pinpoints of light that are going to go into some of the areas that seem a little hidden. You know, remember we talk about shadow side and blind spots, and drop little pinpoints of light there, which will help some of the aspects of grieving that are stuck, that are blocked, that are hidden, that are resistant, to loosen. There we go. Beautiful. I don't know if you felt that shift. I did. It opens the window, opens the door. More light getting into those dense, heavy, condensed areas. You feel unworthy because of some unhealed, unprocessed grief that pointed directly at the loss of your divine, your holy, your whole womanhood, stolen, erased, burned. You didn't bring up witches, but they burned all the records in the ancient libraries. Reason none of us know about Asherah or Sophia or all the names of the goddesses. Kunti from Asian traditions. Reason we don't know about them is because all the records were destroyed. The tablets chipped off. The figurines crushed. But they can't destroy it in our hearts, right? They can't destroy it in the spirit of one woman sitting by the side of the lake admiring swans. And Swan said, "Hello, I'm pretty sure I know you." And this woman is just, "Really? I'm not worthy." And so the story goes. This is how we do it. Why? Because swans have always worked with us. They want us to step back into our goddesshood. They want us to see our own divinity. We're supposed to be in relationship, not just with them, with all the earth, with each other, with our tribes. Circles of women are some of the most powerful entities on the planet. The grandmothers made the decision on when and how and where. Any tribes made decisions or went to war or solved conflicts because it was their sons that were going to be possibly hurt. And so as we look toward the future, as we evolve, we're coming back into this communion, this union that remembers. Oh, thank you. Sister Moon's coming in with some strong tides now. These tides are really helping with the second phase of transformation. Oh, there we go. And because we're in a group, it may not be as clear cut. When I'm working one-on-one, especially with someone who's intuitive, it's distinctive. And it isn't timed, it just goes until it goes, and then the next session or the next phase starts. But here, when we're working with a group, Mother Swan is in charge. The alchemy is from Source. Swan is her bridge. Swan is a representative from Source to us on its wings. Just a couple more minutes. It's hit a patch, a layer of just numbness. And that's to be expected with grief like this. Because grief like this, remember, it's pointing at the loss of your whole womanhood, meaning the entire framing of you as divinity, of our goddesses as divinity, of our role models, of our mothers, of our wombs, of our breasts, of our bodies. Grievously wounded. lost, erased, abused, killed. And so the numbness says, how can I face that? So I'm just going to shut down, or I'm going to leap over it, or I'm going to just do what we see all over in our culture. Distract myself. Surfing on your phone, streaming all these programs. A lot of the content is what? Disturbing or overstimulating or disruptive. We keep ourselves busy, constant projects, constant go, 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 go. Swan Medicine thrives in stillness. It thrives in devotion. It thrives in the energy of looking at something in awe and wonder. One of our participants wrote the most beautiful book, pointing out the beauty of life in words. Why is that important? Because words have vibration. My voice carries light codes that point to both the dissonant and the resonant energy. There we go. So the numbing is soothed. Now the good thing about this recording, and it'll be public, because this is open to the public. The good thing about this recording, and if I have your email address, I'll send it to you, is that you can play this again and it'll get to the next layer and it'll get to the next layer, because trust me when I tell you, this grieving the loss of whole womanhood is not a one and done. What does Swan say? Keep showing up. And I'll help you see your inner beauty by pointing out what inside of you doesn't resonate with beauty. And it's going to go to the fear. It's going to go to the anger. It's going to go to the energy and motion that is unresolved. Beautiful. So now coming into phase 3, as I feel that part 2 should be replayed by a lot of you because of the topic that they picked and how big it is. But maybe it's meant to be taken in small doses, right? Maybe this is something you revisit next week. Maybe this is something you revisit for a month, once a week for a month. Why? Because grieving the loss of your whole womanhood, yeah, it's pretty big. Think of our grandmothers. Think of our past lives, what we lost. And think what it's doing. When we do this kind of work, it helps our daughters. It helps our future self. It helps what's called the morphic resonance. The morphogenetic fields are the collective of humanity's behaviors, thoughts, actions that repeat. And so it perpetuates that act. So the exact opposite is true. When we thin out, because we're working what? They never tell me how many goddesses are working with me, but I know it's really large. When we work with all those goddesses who are in the morphic field for us, they elevate, they amplify, they enhance this issue so that it lightens the morphic field. So it's lighter for everyone. How do I know this to be true? Faith, claircognizance, knowing. And I was told this is the work I'm supposed to do. I call it earth work. And so personal transformation becomes energetic activism, because we're thinning out the group field, the morphic field. But we're also thinning out our ancestry in this pattern. So it's not as tough for our children. It's not as tough for our future self. It's not as tough for our relatives who have even crossed over. Because past, present, and future are all simultaneous. I know. head explode. But it is true. These are some of the things we could have learned had we had our goddess as teacher, our wise women as our mentors. Okay, so dropping into phase 3, integration. Integration brings back that sense of unconditional love. And in this instance, because we are working on unworthiness, it's going to highlight self-worth. Why is it important to integrate? Integrate catches up your system because you started out walking in the door of this session in one configuration. And we went in dimensionally and shifted and moved this puzzle piece and reshaped this other piece and took another puzzle piece completely out. And so everything is trying to fit together. So when you do deep work like this and you feel discombobulated for days, that's why. So we're going to take the time to integrate. And it also comes back to the ending coherence. So you can put your hand on your heart again if it's fallen down or if you feel the need. Then we're going to call up worthiness. There we go. Now, do you see the difference from when we started? Part of your system just snapped to and said, yes, I see you. Welcome home. Worthiness is also sister to love, to self-acceptance, to joy even, to inner beauty. So we're bringing in worthiness to integrate your system. Say, hey brain, catch up. Here's what we changed. Hey nervous system, catch up. Here's what we changed. Chakras, the energy bodies. All your pathways, the organs, especially your heart and your throat chakra and your thyroid and your lungs and your heart hold grief. So we're giving them special attention, special doses of worthiness. It's amazing to me the sense of the difference from when we started and some of the resistance we felt in the beginning. That's why it's okay to stay on phase 1. Because phase 1 is actually doing the bulk of the work. But it is designed to be 3 phases. So integration, the difference, your systems are going, I recognize that frequency. Come on back home. Let's bring things back and catch it up. Physicalize it. To our vagus nerve, our biochemistry, our endocrine system. Back up to the pineal and the brain, the amygdala, that reptile brain, down to the gut brain that tends to focus on survival. Your entire intelligence system that knows how to work together with its dimensionality on the local and the metaphysical levels. So I'm bridging in worthiness to build, to align, help you remember that inner core of who you are, because the wound said I lost it. This process says, psst, we're going to find it again. Here it is, with Swan as the messenger, Swan as the shapeshifter, Swan as the one who walks between worlds to reintroduce you to Mother Source. Again, especially if that divinity was rejecting a part of Mother Source, and you would if you never knew her, or if you have, for me, the affiliation was with core religion, because we were all raised with some religion that said she doesn't exist. To believe in her, to see a female god is sacrilegious, and it's ingrained into you, and you didn't even know it. So there's some part deep down, especially during the Victorian age, all grandmothers paganism, demonized. You ever had a conversation with someone uber religious and you tell them you're supernatural? That still sits in your system somewhere. That rejection, that instant rejection, that instant judgment, that instant shame, that instant guilt. You're going against God. Really? Have you told her that? When we realize she is the creator of all life, man, shit changes, right? We're coming home to our original creator. And this is where we're going. This is part of our mission, if you choose to accept it, to help people understand what's been missing, what's been lost, and what needs to be restored and remembered and aligned and cohered with. And it's a task, I tell you. Think of your relatives, think of certain friends. And we're not here necessarily to change them. We're here to live it, to embody it, so that someone looks at you and goes, hey, what did you do? And asks. And then you tell them. And you don't shrink back because it's so embodied in you that you speak with truth that lands. Not convincing, it just lands. You feel the worthiness building? You feel the power returning? Wow. This really, it took us a while to get here. Because again, Source, Swan didn't pick an easy topic, an easy layer of this topic. She never does. She says if we're going to gather in her name, we're going to pick something that, man, is in the collective. So worthiness asks that you keep up with affirmations, especially if this really hit in a raw, vulnerable area. So maybe you write what your impressions of this is. Maybe you engage with what this brings up. That gets your awareness into it. Your awareness, superpower. Awareness is the power of the female. That intuition that knows, that intuition that senses, that intuition that harnesses intention for manifesting. So whatever practice, self-inquiry, meditation, journaling, go back into this. Ask yourself questions, set affirmations, follow up. Because you want to know what? You're worth it. You're worth work. Maybe the old you said, nah, I got so much on my plate. Why would I do this? Because imagine what you can do if you're standing strong in your worthiness. Imagine what you can do if that worthiness hooks up with a group of other worthiness females or men. This doesn't exclude men. Men in their divine masculinity are incredibly important. It's the imbalance that we're talking about. This isn't a gender. This is divine meets divine. And there's a lot of masculine men who are hurting right now because they've been hurt by our culture too. They're not allowed to go into their sensitive side. So we reunite in partnership with everyone. Now, looking down the road, well, that's going to be time. It's going to take effort. But we got to start somewhere because status quo, not acceptable anymore. Current state of affairs, not acceptable. The way it's causing suffering, not acceptable. So Divine Mother showing up showing up in your meditations, showing up in your mystical events that bring in coincidences. Thank you, Kuan Yin. In the phases of the moon, in Father Sun and his luminosity, in recognizing the beauty of a flower, the laughter of a child you're playing with, your own laughter. The art of making love. Think of how powerful when we return that to its divine status, when the womb becomes the ultimate wisdom again, when we take back the word cunt, right? Cuntology is womb wisdom too. Or is it cunctification? I don't remember. It's been a while since I read it. But they totally hijacked a word for our private area and made it vile, made it a swear word. When in reality, it points to fertility, it points to wisdom, it points to reverence and honoring. Worthiness. Take it back. So they're all coming in the last few minutes. Swan, the angels, Sister Moon, the different goddesses associated with Swan, the different goddesses that we invited in because we have an affiliation with them. Remember, Swan is a vehicle. It is a messenger between worlds. It is the bridge. Angel Jophiel coming in and sprinkling seeds because I swear she's probably on the Swan team too, but she's coming in sprinkling seeds of worthiness. They're going to park themselves in areas that still need illumination because do you know what the Angel Jophiel's archetype is? Angel of illuminating beauty within. And she has been with me my whole entire life, except I didn't know it. So the Angel Jophiel dropping seeds of inner beauty in the darkest places that still need illumination. So when you reach them, when you go there, there's going to be a lamp waiting. Beautiful. Swan thanking us. And so let's take a moment and thank them right back. And I want to thank you too for showing up, for taking the time out of your busy Sunday. As the weather gets nicer and nicer, we want to be outdoors or we want to be with families. Thank you for spending this time together. Gathering in community, as we see, is so very important. Thank you. Thank you for all the Swan helpers, Kuan Yin, Angel Jophiel, the Swan angels, apparently, Sister Moon, the elements of water, of air, of land, and of course, Mother Source. Their beautiful alchemy that is the flowing grace coming in for Swan to spread and use in its divine wisdom. So we always end with a sacred Sanskrit mantra, and its meaning is, may we be led from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May there be peace and freedom on the earth, and may we be conduits. And those conduits, Swan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Myatrama Tram Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guryo Namaha. Hari Make sure you pick an appropriate affirmation. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of being whole. I am worthy of embracing the divine within me. I am worthy to release whatever is left. I am. Do you know what another name for the great cosmic mother, creator of all life, universal consciousness? She is the I am presence. Most people know Mary was the second half of Jesus' equation. He never was meant to do it alone, and he didn't. She is the I am presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, sending gratitude and grace your way to all our helpers, to the divine. Taking a deep breath, bringing up and out of the space of grace, bowing my head to all of you and your ancestors, your future self, your entire tribe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. It is complete. So it is, so it is, so it is. Until next time, know, not only are you worthy, you are loved.